Yes. Mix. Okay. Testing. Test. Okay. All right. It's gonna be hard to get that. All right. The regular meeting of the Kansas City Public Schools Board of Directors, November 28th, 2018, is now called to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Manser, Ms. Wolsey,
Here.
Ms. Lewis,
Here.
Mr. Oates,
Here.
Mr. Fierro,
Here.
Mr. Evans, Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsfeld, Ms. Robinson.
Here. Board members Morris, Manser, and Evans have requested an excused absence for the evening. Is there any objection? Their absence is excused. Is there any objection to approve the agenda for tonight? No objection, the agenda is approved. And now for public comment, we have 3 individuals who have indicated that they wish to address the board for public comment. The chair now recognizes Susan Stocking with the District Advisory Committee. Ms. Stocking, welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be out of the house. Good evening, Chairwoman Robinson and members of the board. Next Wednesday, December 5th, we're having our second District Advisory Committee General Meeting. At December's meeting, we'll be shining the spotlight on how civic engagement can directly impact education in Kansas City. Our guest speakers include Ms. Kolkmeyer, KCPS Board Secretary, who's presenting about the redrawn districts for the Board of Education. Board Member Oates will be presenting an update on district equity initiatives. Dr. Bruce Eddy with the Coalition for Kansas City Economic Development Reform will share information about TIF, economic development financing, and the direct impact it has on public education funding in Kansas City. And Corey Smith is sharing information about the justice in the schools, legal clinics, and legal services, and the partnerships with the city that helped get the program started. By the end of the meeting, everyone should know their new Board of Education subdistrict, their city council person, their state representative, their state senator, and how to contact them. The DAC is also working on scheduling a legislative training session with the goal of bringing KCPS families to Jeff City for Education Legislative Day. We should have the dates for the training and Legislative Day before the December 5th general meeting. The training would take place in January before the February Education Legislative Day. Finally, I want to give some kudos to Steve Burton. He's here tonight. Steve is passionate about a couple of things. He's passionate about science and athletics, specifically tennis, and has worked for many years to expand the tennis program in KCPS. I believe that prior to this year, tennis was only available at Lincoln. This year, the tennis programs were added to East and Northeast High School, and the U.S. Tennis Association also had a program for students at Border Star. This weekend, Steve and Coach Michael King are attending the U.S. Tennis Association Heart of America Tennis Conference to further that partnership and bring tennis to more KCPS students. Steve, thank you for your commitment and your passion. Way to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. And I apologize, Ms. Stocking, I failed to, no, you're fine. I failed to let everyone know that you have 3 minutes per speaker, but you did fine, thank you. Shanita McGee, she is here to talk about changes in graduation dates. Is Ms. McGee here? Okay, next, Tom Love to talk about 5 pages of zeros. Welcome, Mr. Love.
Thank you. I left a copy of this information with June, so any board member that wants to get it can take a look. So I was at the state capitol in the basement and picked up these 5 pages of zeros that the budget director had mentioned. So every school is identified in every grade. So like here's a high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, 0, 0, 0. There's no money requested for tutoring for reading, and a third of the students qualify. A third of the students by the end of 6th grade are still functionally illiterate. district-wide. So there's 5 pages of these. It's unbelievable. The budget director didn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. So I asked him, because he was seeing the surrounding districts and they were requesting funds. But I said, could you check St. Louis? And he said, it's the same thing. So what's going on? Now, I know DeMonte had given, I think, Dr. Shepard a copy of that. Is that right? And I think he's the, isn't he the assistant chairman or vice chairman for DAC, DeMonte Rochester? He went ahead and checked it out. Now, last week I got a letter from the Attorney General of Missouri, Josh Hawley. He just won the U.S. Senate race. And he was trying to respond to questions I had concerning this law that we're not complying with. So he basically says, and you can read it because the secretary has it, that he's advising me to direct this to local law enforcement and the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office. Because there's a law that says you must comply with education laws or you are subject to a misdemeanor. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm supposed to hear something from the attorney representing the police department. And I don't want anybody to go to jail for up to a year or pay a $500 fine. I know that from some of my reading, I noticed that you could plead guilty and the judge would maybe suspend the sentence and get you to comply with the law. But I don't know what a judge is going to do, and I don't know what the prosecutor's going to do. There's a prosecutor, I think his first name is Robert Sauls. He wants to prosecute this. So there's funding for complying with this, giving us 70 hours of tutoring to like 1,000 students. I've got the information that the district only helped 49 fourth graders last year. And I've got an email from the district attorney, Julie Johnson, that said they helped 1 6th grader 2 years ago and 9 5th graders and some other 4th graders.
Thank you, Mr. Love.
Right. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. For the presentation of this evening's revenue and expenditure report, the chair recognizes Board Treasurer Matthew Oates.
Okay. So this is our expenditure report for the month ending in October 31st. So again, if we look at our first page, it's our revenue. A couple of notes to take a look at here on our revenue page is number one, look at our local here. So we're running ahead of last year's amount. So this year to date, we're at 6.8 million versus just under 6 million last year. And that's just largely due to increased local grant funding. When we take a look at our state level, so we have 2.5 million this year versus 3.3 million last year. And a lot of that is just due to us running behind last year on total number of student ADA from summer school. And that will also result in a decrease in summer school expenses for this next summer, correct? Okay. So on our federal line item, we have 6.8 million this year, and that's versus 7.5 million last year. And again, that's running behind just due to the timing of federal reimbursements on some of the programs, but we are on target for our budget. So our total revenue this year is $16.2 million this year compared to $16.8 million last year. So if we change the page. So on our expenditures page, administration's cost this year, year to date, is 1.6 million, and that's versus just over $1 million last year, and that's due to a little higher at this point due to board elections, which we pay out for, and also some legal expenses. Our instruction is at $26 million this year as compared to $28 million last year, and that's lower due to reduced cost of summer school programming and also reduced cost of outside special education services. Our support services this year, or year to date, is at $3.6 million versus $11.8 million last year, and those expenses are higher due to student device purchases, additional staffing for schools, the registrars that we put into our high schools. Plant services this year is at $8.5 million. That's compared to just over $8 million last year. And again, that cost is slightly higher just due to our first full year of in-house custodial services. Community and adult services are lower this year at $605,000 compared to $1.1 million this year, and that's just due to reduced costs for our before and after school care provider. So our total expenditures at this point is at $52.5 million this year compared to $53.3 million this year. So that gives us, again, here's our chart where our money comes from, local, state, and federal. And then on the next page is how we allocate our resources.
Oops, sorry.
And as you see, again, the different areas where we spend our revenue at. And then our final slide here is, again, our red line represents our expenditures, and our blue line represents our revenues. As always, we'd like to, ideally, you always want the blue line over the red, and that's something that, again, comes to starting about January when property tax receipts start coming in. So right now we're at about net $36 million. And that's compared to $36.6 million last year. So pretty much on target. At this point, do we have any questions?
Thank you,
All
Board
right.
Member Oates, for your presentation. We have the Government Relations Committee that does have a report this evening. The chair recognizes Board Member Fierro.
You-
Madam Chair, I would like to just invite the member public that the Government Relations Committee is having its upcoming annual legislative breakfast scheduled for Friday, December 7th at 8 a.m. And we will hope that the board members wherever you all are at. And the purpose is really to forge partnerships, collaboration with each of you, with neighborhood groups and community leaders, et cetera. As you all know, public education has a pretty broad net in terms of its reach and fluid impacts. And certainly we don't do this without any help from the public. And so the purpose is to really strengthen those alliances so that come January when our lobbyists come, our state associates,
Sorry. Staff was up there pointing at me, and I was like, okay, what am I doing wrong? So we are just really wanting to build that broad coalition to support our legislative priorities as the legislative session starts in January. So again, next Friday, December 7th, 8 a.m. here in this room. It is free and open to the general public. All the information is on our website in terms of how to RSVP, but we certainly would appreciate your participation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And the agenda, our legislative agenda that we adopted at the last meeting is on the website. So we would encourage you all to go out there and look at it and find ways to connect with us in the work that Mr. Fierro is leading. And for our communications and community engagement report, the chair recognizes Board Member Wolfsey.
Thank you, Chairwoman Robinson. I would love to let everybody know that we will be hosting School Board School the day after the legislative breakfast. Busy, busy week. That is Saturday, December 8th from 8 a.m. till noon here in this building. And this is an opportunity for those that are interested in learning more about board service. You do not, just because you attend does not mean you have to run, just so everybody knows that. But this is a great way, if you're ever considering running for school board, to come and learn what's involved in service. You'll learn a little bit about governance. You'll learn about the overall landscape of public ed in Kansas City. You'll also learn from experts about how to run a campaign, and you'll get a few perspectives from the board members that will actually also be in attendance. So we encourage you to look into that if that's something of interest, or if you know somebody, because a lot of times if you're here sitting in the audience or you're listening online, you know people who are interested in school board and also public ed. Please help us get the word out about this as well. Please share with your social networks and talk to your friends and colleagues about it as well. There's also a kind of a school board school light, if you will, on Thursday, December 13th from 5 to 8 p.m. again here. And for either of those, you'll just need to RSVP to our board secretary, June Kochmeyer. And I believe this information's on the website, isn't it? Okay, so you can find it there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for the superintendent's report, our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Shepherd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Bedell is absent this evening due to a pre-scheduled commitment, so I will be filling in. I have a couple of announcements before we actually get to our video. We are officially within our 45 days of engagement with our community regarding our proposal to add additional teacher professional development days or professional learning days to the calendar for the 2019-20 school year, and to change school start times for some of our schools. These meetings will be held from 5:30 to 6:30. Our first meeting is tomorrow night, November 29th at the Linwood YMCA. December 4th, we have another one at Manual. And then December 6th, we have our last one at Northeast Middle School Auditorium. Second, our signature school application process begins December 4th. If you are interested in applying for Lincoln Middle or Lincoln High School, the testing dates are listed on our website. Enrollment office hours on December 4th are 6:30 a.m. until 6 o'clock p.m., and there are language services that will be provided. Lastly, I'd like to thank our child nutrition department for feeding our students at 5 of our schools today. Excellent job. Thank you for taking care of our students and making sure that all kids eat. Thank you so much. Now, before we go to our video, I'd like to thank KCATA for our student ridership initiative. Because of this initiative, our high school students will be able to ride our city buses at no charge as long as they have student identification. We are grateful for this initiative. And now for the video highlight.
We are KCPS.
On November 2nd at Manual Career and Technical Center, Kansas City Public Schools and the Kansas City Area Transportation Agency announced an exciting new initiative to provide bus passes free of charge for every student in grades 9 through 12. In alignment with Strategic Priority 4.4, this initiative was developed in order to provide a system of academic safety nets that are easily accessible to students and families, including expanded educational options, and easing barriers to participating in these additional opportunities. The KCATA Ridership Initiative really started to move down the road on Tuesday morning, November 20th. That's when KCATA staff visited Central Academy of Excellence for a special Learn to Ride event. Students who had completed the sign-up process for the initiative received their complimentary bus passes. KCATA staff then led the students through a program to teach them bus rider protocols and how to use the KCATA system so that they can get where they need to go. A KCATA bus was brought to the school so that students could practice what they had just learned. This initiative will have an immediate and very positive impact on all our students. One Central Academy scholar, 9th grader Kira Looney, talked about how she already uses KCATA buses to get to her part-time job in the Northland. Her free bus pass will save her $18 a week, or nearly $1,000 a year. About 300 students have signed up so far to receive bus passes. Everyone at KCPS is extremely grateful to the Kansas City Area Transportation Agency for making this ridership initiative a reality. This is a great example of how we are all in for our students.
Thank you. And so for the next item of business is the seal of biliteracy, and we recognize our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Shepherd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to call up at this time Allison Heil, our Director of Language Services, to present our seal of biliteracy proposal. And we are so excited about this. And now you have Ms. Heil.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairwoman Robinson and board members, Dr. Shepherd. I'm so excited to be here tonight. On November 1st, 2018, DESE approved KCPS's application to award the Seal of Biliteracy to KCPS students achieving proficiency in English and a language other than English. We are actually one of the first districts in the metro area to be able to award the seal. So we're very excited about this opportunity to publicly and tangibly affirm and celebrate the diversity within KCPS and the language assets our students bring to us and graduate with. This also speaks to the commitment of our English-speaking students and families that value and are in pursuit of becoming biliterate and bicultural. And I changed the slide. So 2017 was actually the pilot year of the Seal of Biliteracy in the state of Missouri, and Missouri graduated 421 students with the seal out of 29 districts. Kansas City Public Schools currently has over 300 students that could be eligible for the seal. Most of those students are at Lincoln College Prep and East High School. And some of these benefits you can see on the slide are, there's college benefits, of course, so most colleges or state universities are offering students 12 to 14 credit hours for having the seal. There's also obviously career and job opportunities for our students, plus, like I said, the acknowledgement and recognition of a student's home culture and their language skills. So there are 3 criteria that need to be met to be eligible for the seal. Those criteria are proficiency in English, proficiency in a language other than English, and then also communicative proficiency, where the student shows that they can use the target language in a social context or community context. So there are 2 levels of the seal. There's the standard seal, and then there's the distinguished seal of biliteracy, which is just a little bit more rigorous. So I'm going to really quickly go over KCPS's requirements. So for English language arts, there are 3 ways you can meet that requirement, and you only have to meet one of them. So that is an 18 or a 20 on the ACT reading, proficient or advanced on the English 10 EOC, or if you're an English language learner, scoring a 4.0 or a 4.3 on the access test, which is the English language proficiency test. Then the student has to show proficiency in a language other than English. So we have several options for this. So students can pass an AP language course or test, excuse me. They can take an IB exam, or our final option is the standards-based measurement of proficiency, the STAMP 4S, and its partner test WorldSpeak. These are for students mainly who have a language that is low incidence. So this test offers Arabic, Vietnamese, Thai, and soon will offer Swahili. And we have a lot of students that would actually qualify in Swahili. So we're very excited about that. We're focusing on this year's seniors. So seniors this year may be taking the STAMP 4S just because the IB scores come in after graduation, but we are making plans for if students want to use their IB score, they may not get the seal on their diploma, but they will still receive that on their transcript and it will still be awarded. So those are the language other than English requirements. And then finally, there is the Socio-Cultural Competency component, which is like what we would call communicative competence. So the students have to be able to show they can use the target language in a communicative way. And this also is options, so the students can pick one of 3 options. Those are interpreting or translating at a school or other district function, and then writing a written reflection in the target language. They can volunteer at a community event or complete a community service project requiring the use of both languages and then write a written reflection. Or for students who may not have that mobility opportunity, they can write an essay detailing the importance of bilingualism and then also present to a panel made up of teachers and community. And then we also are collecting opportunities that students can do this at. So this also fulfills a requirement, the community service requirement for students. So it kind of works hand in hand with a lot of expectations that they have. So like students can interpret at open house or curriculum nights or parent nights. They can translate letters home or letters from teachers. We have a lot of demand for that at the beginning of the school year when teachers want to send welcome letters, so students can help with that. There's other community opportunities that they can help with, and we're continually collecting these opportunities to pass that information on to students so they know where they can go to complete this component. So our timeline actually starts now. We actually had hoped today that we would be having meetings at East and Lincoln, and that obviously didn't work out, so we are working on rescheduling for December, but we were supposed to be in those 2 schools today with the state director of ELL presenting to the students about the opportunity and what they need to do to begin the work. Early February, we have to order the language other than English tests. We'll have a test window of mid-February to mid-March. And then students will be expected to turn in their applications, and we will begin the portfolio review process with teachers and community members, helping us assess student work and grade according to rubrics. And then the goal is May 1st, students will be notified of their attainment of the seal. So that's just finishing out this year. We do have a 3-year implementation plan or goals. So this year, it's really important that we get the word out to seniors first. We only have so much time with them, and then we're also bringing juniors on board with that this year. Next year, we will focus on developing a 9th and 10th grade pipeline and how we communicate with those students. We're going to develop K-8 pathways, which is just another way to involve our younger language learners, help them, and publicly acknowledge the milestones that they hit, get them excited about being biliterate and bicultural, and help get them ready for participating in the SEAL when they hit 9th grade. And then also to develop a district infrastructure to support a more robust world language program. We have all of this capability within the district, and we want to see it grow and support it. And then year 3, we'd like to expand the number of advanced language courses to at least 3 high schools, double the number of students that are eligible for the SEAL, and then, of course, implement the K-8 pathways and assist with that, especially at Carver Dual Language and Foreign Language Academy. So our engagement plan is to target seniors first. That was supposed to be today. Again, it will be rescheduled, but we're doing that with the state ELL director, Ryan Rumpf. And then we will also be doing individual classroom presentations. We will have PowerPoints for teachers so they can present to the kids that are in front of them. We have a district webpage that I am told is just about ready to go. And then we will have counselors and on-site or campus-based staff do Google Classroom updates and Facebook page updates. So juniors and seniors can keep updated with upcoming opportunities. And then finally, we did this all with a very small team. I probably should have started by thanking them so much for all the work that they put in, but the counselors from East, Andrew Urban, Jermaine Wilson, they were all so helpful in helping us pull this together and get it done, but we still need some community support. So we're always looking for opportunities in the community where students can go and complete hours for their socio-cultural project. Letters of support from the business community that can, and potential internship possibilities, I think will help really make this concrete for students to see where their language skills can get them. We do need community members and leaders that have our target languages to help serve on presentation panels so students can present to real life people, and then a budget, of course, to expand this robust world language program. So that is it. What questions can I answer?
Board Member Wolfsey?
Thank you for the presentation. This, I think, is really a very exciting opportunity for our students. So I'm just going to ask a very naive question because I don't really understand. Is the target originally students who are already speaking? Is this mostly English language learners that we're targeting? Is it students that are English speaking that we're trying to acquire a whole second language? I'm just curious. And is that, you know, part of the overall plan is to start with one and move to a greater number?
So it's actually both. And what we did was Mike Reynolds' department helped us kind of find our target audience by going through and identifying first which students we have that would meet the ELA criteria. And then we pulled English language learners that would also meet that criteria. But then we have to filter them through students who are actually in an advanced language course, language other than English course, that could qualify. So that did bring up a lot of students from Lincoln because they have those IB opportunities, but then also English language learners at East. So we want any student to have this opportunity, and we're not trying to target one or the other. It happens that right now we have more students at Lincoln. We have a lot of students at East, but it's also hard to determine their level of native language proficiency because we don't always have measures for that. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Board Member Oates? Do you have a?
Thank you. So on the seal of biliteracy, you said this was the first year, this last school year was the first year?
2017 is the first school year that Missouri was approved to award the seal.
Do you have any feel for, I guess, the future of the program? Do you see it expanding to other universities in Missouri, reciprocity in other states? This is a very new concept to me.
So that's a good question. We are actually the 29th of 35 states to have the seal. So we don't know yet what Missouri's seal would equal in California should a student get accepted to a university there, but we know it exists as a seal in California. We don't have, and the state has not conducted any kind of reciprocity. I don't know the word for that, but doesn't have any reciprocity with other states yet. But we do know that we have lots of neighbors that already have the seal and award it.
Board Member Wolfsey? Yeah.
So as a follow-up to, because I saw on here the 3-year implementation is those K through 8 pathways. And as you mentioned, right now we have the 2 schools that actually are more immersion type schools. Right. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we have language at a K through 5th or 6th in any of our neighborhoods, correct? Okay, we did a long time ago when I
know.
And so I'm curious and there's no commitment to this, but I am curious if you're really going to develop this program, you kind of need that pipeline to eventually get to where your high schoolers are able to take advantage of this sort of opportunity.
So I think that's where our English language learners do really play into this opportunity because we have them in nearly every school. And so the idea of supporting their language acquisition and the language assets that they bring, whatever the language is, throughout elementary is a great way to get them excited about being biliterate and bicultural and participating in a language by high school. Ideally, we're doing that with all students, right? And even if they in elementary don't currently have another language, that is an option for them should they attend Lincoln or should they attend Southeast. Hopefully, by the time they get to Southeast, we have a robust world language program for them there. But yes, that is kind of a pathway we need to really think about as a whole.
Provide just a little bit more context around that statement around. I know that you're saying it's both, and when we say that, are we measuring our ability to teach English, or are we measuring our ability to teach another language? So ELL students, our ability to teach English, and then, so can you provide some additional context and maybe quantify how this program is going to be measured under those two? Is it in terms of percentage-wise, maybe?
Like the percent of students that achieve the seal or achieve proficiency in both languages,
Or the ELL versus another language other than English, so that we can be able to crystallize that conversation out in the community that the program is purposed to do both of these things, but can you provide more context?
I will try. So the intent of the program is to honor and celebrate biliteracy, whether it's you're starting as an English-only student and learning another language, or you're coming to this country having spoken another language and you're learning English. So all in all, it is just to celebrate being biliterate or multiliterate, because we have a lot of students who have both. We're measuring them kind of in the same way, not necessarily for all ELLs, because they have languages that there's no test for, in which we'll have to do portfolios. So the path looks a little bit different for both groups of kids, but the end result is that they are showing they're proficient in a language other than English and English. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now moving down the line to some very fun stuff. 3.01. We recognize Dr. Shepard to present the acceptance of our fiscal year 18 annual audit report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, the administration would like the board to take action on the acceptance of our fiscal year 18 annual audit reports, and we are bringing to the mic Kevin Smith, who is a partner with RSM.
Yes. Good evening, Dr. Shepard, members of the board. Thanks for having me here tonight. I'm here to give the results of the fiscal year 2018 audit. And yes, it is a packed house, probably because of this, I understand. I also have with me Brian Welch and Rashonda Fuller with Welch & Associates. Welch's firm, they complete the single audit or the compliance audit, and RSM focuses on the financial statement audit. So as part of this presentation, I'll go through the first section, then I'm going to hand it over to Brian to go through the compliance results. So the first slide here is just an agenda of what we're going to go through. Before I dive into the slides, I just want to make a couple of comments. The audit really culminates before the end of the year. We do some test work before June 30, and then we've got teams out here really starting in September and October, and even a little bit into November. So there's several weeks of test work. There's several weeks of us working with staff in order to complete the audit. So I want to thank staff for their full cooperation. We didn't have any difficulties or disagreements with management. We were able to have access to all the information that we needed to have access to, and as I mentioned, did receive full cooperation. So I want to recognize Linda and her team and everybody else that we worked with for their efforts. We're going to go through some financial information and give the results of the financial statement audit first. And then we won't spend too much time on the financial data because you've seen more recent data. Just as of tonight, you were looking at October information, and this is as of June, so we won't spend too much time with the numbers. But as this slide here shows a summary of the results of the financial statement audit. The main purpose of our audit is to give an opinion over the financial statements and whether they are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So the first bullet there just mentions that there was an unmodified or a clean opinion over the financial statements. So that is the highest level of assurance you can receive as a part of a financial statement audit. And then a few notes here about the financial results. Overall, governmental fund balances decreased by about $13.7 million over 2017. And that number does include all of the governmental funds of the district, including capital projects and debt service. So a big reason for this decrease is really the spending down of some of the debt that had been issued in prior years. The main focus of the district, and really all districts, is the general fund, because that is the main operating fund. And so a few bullets here on the results of the general fund financial activity for fiscal year 2018. The overall fund balance of the general fund decreased by just under $1 million, so about $900,000 over last year, including compared to 2017, property taxes did increase by about $9.5 million. Also, state basic aid decreased. In addition to that, there were some decreases in some federal revenue programs of the general fund. So you'll see those all listed here. That was about a decrease of about $6.6 million. So even though there was an increase in those property taxes, they were offset by some of these decreases that are noted here. And then the last bullet there mentions the Standard & Poor's bond rating of the district. As a result of the audit, we don't give a grade. We don't give a letter grade to the district. So really the best place to go to look at the fiscal health of the district is to look at that bond rating by either Moody's or S&P. And so this is just noting that the most recent bond rating that S&P has given is an A with a stable outlook. So that is a positive rating. And then there's a couple slides on the financial results. This is a slide that includes all of the governmental funds of the district. Overall revenue is about $249 million of the district, and then 263 expenditures. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the increase in the expenditures were due to timing of capital projects and spending some of those bond proceeds from prior years. But overall fund balance of the district, which again includes all of the governmental funds, so debt service, capital projects, student nutrition, overall fund balance is about $112 million. And then the next slide focuses on the general fund and shows kind of a history of the general fund over the past 10 years. So revenue in 2018 was about $223 million compared to $220 million in 2017, with expenditures for 2018 being $218 million, which was a slight decrease over 2017. And then overall fund balance of the general fund is about $58.6 million, which, as I mentioned earlier, was about a $900,000 decrease from 2017. And most of that fund balance, about $53 million of that, is unrestricted and unassigned fund balance. So before I turn it over to Brian, I'd be happy to answer any questions thus far. Otherwise, I'll just turn it over to him to go through the compliance results.
You.
Okay. Brian?
Good evening, Dr. Shepard and the members of the board. First thing I do is I'd like to thank you all for, again, allowing us to be your auditors. As Kevin mentioned, they audited the financial statements and we audited your compliance, and that compliance audit had two components. One is for your federal compliance, and then we also audited your state compliance. The 10-year history of our audits, your audits over the last 10 years. I'm just going to focus on the 2018 column, but of course, if you have any questions on the prior year, that's fine. So we audited 4 programs. They're highlighted in green: child nutrition, Title III, Title II Part C, and the CACFP program. And we audited your, did you operate those programs in compliance with the federal requirements? And similar to the financial statement audit, we also found that you operated these programs in compliance, so we issued an unmodified opinion on your operations. However, we did find 2 findings on some programs, and those programs were the child nutrition and the child and adult food care program. The 2 findings were basically the same finding because both of these are very similar because they're both involving serving food. So the findings were the exact same, and normally we would have done it as 1 finding, but they were 2 separate programs, so we had to list it as 2 findings. The findings were in the nature of some of the city inspectors of the food programs. They come out and do some inspections, and on some of so we did a sample of the inspection reports that they prepared, And on two of the reports that they prepared, they've had some critical, what exactly is the term they use? Critical findings. So there were two areas where they had critical findings, and that in and of itself wasn't the problem. They gave you a corrective action date, and it was about 3 weeks later, is that correct? And so when they came back out for the follow-up inspection, those items had not been cleared. So that's what generated the material weakness that we found in the operations. We did not feel that this was indicative of a reason to qualify our opinion on your compliance. We just felt that it was a material weakness in your internal controls because the processes, you did not have good process in place. We were given some documentation, it was a little incomplete, that showed that you had made some of the corrections after the first inspection, but there really was no concrete follow-through with the city, for them to basically say that it had been cleared when they did the second inspection. So again, I don't want to make it sound like you didn't do anything, but the process in place was just not adequate enough in order for us to be able to say it wasn't good enough for the city not to issue that second critical finding again. Are there any questions on the federal audit?
Can you go more in detail about what was found in terms of the food inspection, what was the issue?
Yeah, okay, so the city used the word critical, so I'm not quite sure I would have elevated it critical, but that's their wording. But I'll give you an example. One of the items was, I believe you had a faucet that was leaking. So it's like, okay, a faucet leaks, so maybe the water bill's higher, but I don't really see that as a food safety issue because it's just leaking in the sink. What was some of the other ones?
Observed a leak at the sprayer faucet.
Okay, so there was a sprayer, same thing, it was leaking. So again, I felt that we were kind of boxed into basically finding that you had a material weakness because of their use of the word critical. If they had not used the word critical, then I wouldn't have elevated it to a finding, but because they used the word critical, I did not want to supersede their judgment. But the type of things that they found, again, in our opinion, really didn't get into food safety. Like we said, a water faucet that leaked or a food sprayer. So again, maybe the water bills are a little higher, but it's really not a safety issue in and of itself. Any questions on that one? Okay. So then we also audited your your state compliance, and I always have to pull out the report because the language is a little bit different, but what we were, and I got so I'm a little older, I can't see as well. Okay, and so on this one, we are auditing, did the district comply with the requirements of Missouri laws and regulations requiring budgetary and disbursement requirements of Chapter 67 of the revised Missouri statutes, and accurately report average daily attendance and average daily transportation. So we audited all that, if you will. And again, we found that the information that you reported back to the state was materially accurate, so we issued an unmodified opinion and did not have any findings on the state compliance audit.
Yes, Board Member Wilson.
Sorry, I just want to make sure, no, you just, that last bit that you were speaking of, is it in this?
Which last bit?
The enrollment and the transportation?
The state compliance? The
yes.
actual details is in the...
It says compliance report, that's what.
Yeah, page
okay.
14.
Page 4, that's...
Oh, you're looking at hard copy, right?
Yes.
So it's page 12 hard copy. Well, the actual report that we issue is on page 12, and then the details starts on page 14
okay.
of hard copy.
And so my question is, this 14 is the one. That then is the way that the state, or I guess, I don't know, that we just know that what we've said is our enrollment that is a double checking and auditing of our actual enrollment, correct?
Yeah, so the district completes this schedule, and then we obtain evidence to validate the numbers on the schedule. And we do it obviously on the attendance information we're doing on a sample basis, but for instance, one of the items, just to give you an example, on page 15, 5A, whether or not you had the bond for $50,000, that's just a document. So that's obviously not a sample. So certain things are sampled, certain things we get specific information in order to validate basically what we're determining is, are these answers true and accurate?
I have a quick follow-up to that. So I know that we go through this process every year. Are charter schools also required to go through the same process that we go through?
Charter schools do have audits.
So they have public audits that we would be able to see where we could see these numbers as well?
I'm pretty sure that they have to disclose them the same way
Okay.
that you all do.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Board Member Oates?
Hey, thanks for the report. So, just a quick question. Going to reverse real quick to last year, just what I think I remembered from our conversation. So, last year we did have a qualified under adult ed, and I felt like I felt like the discussion from that was that if you have a qualified thing, somehow it impacts the next year's audit. I guess more things get audited or
Yes, so there's
something
a
like that. I just remind me
yes,
if you. Well,
there's a methodology for determining which programs are going to be audited, so it's not done happenstance. And so when you have there's a low risk, high risk, basically qualification that you all receive. So when you have a qualified opinion, then you're considered higher risk, and so we have to audit. Is it 40%? 40% of your federal programs, but if you're low risk, it's 20 or 25. 20% of your federal programs. So we had to audit 40% of the programs in this year because of the qualification last year.
and so just think about it. I'm just thinking like a credit report kind of. Does that tail off next year, or do we have to wait 7 years before years?
I believe it's 2. Is
2
that right?
years, okay.
All right, it's 2.
Okay.
So we have to do that same 40%
Next year.
on the next year, and then if that one's clean, when you get to the second year from now, you would go down the 20% threshold.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much for your report. Okay. It would now be in order to have a motion to approve and accept to accept the fiscal year 18 annual audit report.
So moved.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to accept the annual audit report. Is there any debate on the motion? Hearing no debate, will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Manser, Ms. Wolfsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans, Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsville, Ms. Robinson.
Yes. There is a majority in favor, and the fiscal year 18 annual audit is accepted. For item 3.02, Lincoln College Preparatory Academy Field renovation, the chair recognizes Dr. Shepherd to present this proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, the administration would like the board to take action on the Lincoln College Preparatory Academy field renovation contracts in the amount of $2,919,605. And we have Linda Quinley, our COO, here to present.
Good evening, Board of Education. Thank you. We are bringing you the second set of the project that you allowed us to engage McCowan Gordon as construction manager to oversee. We put these packages for Lincoln Middle School renovation and the Lincoln Field together under one contract with them. So I'm going to talk with you a little bit about both. We have Travis Downing and Luke Dietz in the crowd with us tonight, who are the experts as they are doing the work every day. But we wanted to bring you the bids on the Lincoln Field project and give you some update on that. So we are asking you to approve those tonight. There is one additional contract that will come to you next month, simply because of a family emergency we couldn't get appropriate signatures. But collectively, for the 16 of the 17 contracts we're asking you to approve tonight, $2.9 million related to the field. When we add the 17th next month, that's going to come up to $3.3 million. On the field project, we were really excited. In a similar fashion as we did the middle school renovation, we broke it out into multiple packages so that we could have hopefully greater local participation and increase both our minority and women-owned business participation. And we were successful in doing that. It's actually harder on a field project because of the specialized companies. A field turf company is a field turf company, and there aren't that many of them. Scoreboards are scoreboards, and there aren't that many of them. But we did achieves 9 MBE contracts or subcontracts and 2 WBE for a total of 15.11% on the field contract. And then collectively, when we combine that with the overall that McCown-Gordon is overseeing for us of the Lincoln Middle School, we are at 36.03% or $6 million on these projects in MBE, WBE. I would take any questions you have.
Board Member Hartsfield.
Thank you. I was looking at the document and it was stating
That document should have been modified, and we may have missed it in one spot, but what we're asking you to approve are the 16 contracts that are included in the packet that total the 2.9 million.
All right, yeah, because this one talks about 13 contracts.
Well,
Trade contracts coming to 3,309. Okay, so yes. The second part I wanted to ask.
Can you press your button so people that are listening remotely can hear? Thank you.
yes, you're welcome. The second piece I wanted to ask about is that I went back and looked at our proposal that we did in November of 2017 for the Lincoln Field, and we had $1,400,000.
as a hoped budget. Is that what you're referencing?
I didn't see a whole budget there.
Yes, yes.
I didn't see that. I didn't see
The original yes, you're exactly right. We are spending over double what was originally projected prior to my arrival and in the early planning of this field. And that relates to the fact that when Lincoln Middle School became a factor too, and the further we worked down the road and the realization that this would be now a campus environment, this field was going to be just a practice field, but we went ahead because we had monies available from other projects unused and made this a competition field instead of just a practice field. And that's the difference in the cost from a little over a year ago.
Okay, and I guess my next question then would be, that's a little bothersome to me when I looked at that proposed, that's in our November 1 meeting that we proposed and voted on. And my third piece then I would like to get maybe in a Friday packet is, can I get the total amount that we have spent in since that November in our Lincoln Middle High School project? Because I remember a few years back when we did our Hell Cook project, we did a piece that looked at the amount and how that broke down per student. And I'm beginning to wonder how this is going to break down too. So what I'd like to see is, since that initial budget was put up in November 1, to date, what is our investment in Lincoln Middle High School project?
Sure. Would you like to know what is committed and encumbered or what's been spent? Or both, maybe? Okay.
Okay, can I just ask a follow-up question? The 2.9 million, was that in the budget that we approved?
It's in the overall budget. We moved it around between the two projects in order to make it work, but it has been authorized in the budget already.
So it's been authorized in the budget conversation for the 2.9 million. So the November, was that 2018 or 2019?
No, it would have been a year ago.
2017.
Before the project went to bid and scope.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Yes,
Just clarification, but in the budget when we approved it, it wasn't the 2.9 million going to a field. It was, you said you reallocated some funds from somewhere else?
The final approval was for $3.5 million on the field, but we were able to bring you that final request because we were spending less on the building.
Board Member Wolfsey?
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. Somehow we, by savings on the Lincoln Middle renovation, identified funds that then allowed us to make a change in the field from a practice field to a competition level field.
Correct.
When was that, I mean, was that actually brought to the board in that way where the decision to make, I'm just sorry, but
Right.
I was not aware.
I don't know that I can answer that exactly. We'll have to go back through the when we brought which requests for the approvals, and we can do that and bring that back to you. But the scope of this field, since I've been involved, has been to be a competition field. And I know that when it began and the original estimates were made that it was not. So we've worked for the last year and a half under the assumption it would become a competition field, but with not the best of estimates as to what that was going to cost until we actually got to the real scope.
Yeah, and I think the critical thing for me is when we passed the budget, that it was contemplated in the budget that was passed.
Yeah, there is budget authorized for this currently.
Any other questions?
Word of clarity then, so we can see what we voted on. It is in the meeting, November 1, if you want to look at it. And it's, I think we're talking questions, because until we get, hopefully when we get both of these figures, and if we see that it's within that 16 million, then where was the leftover from, and then where did it come that we could make 100% increase would be, I just want to know about. Because I don't recall any of our conversations about the field since November 1.
Certainly.
Yes, Board Member Lewis?
Just to help me understand how this works. So when we find excess funds that are available because we've been effective in saving money, those funds have to go into a Lincoln project, or could those funds have gone into other programs?
They could go into anything.
So we decided to put them into an athletic field as opposed to something academic.
It would now be in order to have a motion to approve the Lincoln College Preparatory Academy field renovation contract. Is there a second?
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the Lincoln College Preparatory Academy field renovation contracts. Is there any debate on the motion? Seeing no debate. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Just wondering, approval today or non-approval today, is there any impact on schedule if we bring it back in a couple weeks or anything like that?
We're trying to target an August 1 date so that they can open there next year.
Okay.
And so we're pretty tight on that.
Okay.
It certainly can be delayed, but it'll mean we can't promise August 1.
Okay. I just want to get an idea of that. So.
And forgive me for not knowing this already, but have these contracts been signed?
No, not until you
Or
approve
it
them.
will not be signed until
Right. They're sitting in
after?
my office waiting for Ms. Robinson.
Okay, again, the motion is to approve the Lincoln College Preparatory Academy field renovation contracts. This will be a roll call vote. Those in favor will respond yes. Those opposed will respond no. The secretary will call the roll.
Ms. Manser, Ms. Wolfsey,
Abstain?
Ms. Lewis,
No.
Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans, Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsfeld,
No.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes, and so there is not a majority.
there's 3 yes, 2 no.
Oh, okay, so there is a majority. Okay, thank you. There is a majority and the contracts are approved. Thank you. Okay, for the next item is the American Digital Security proposal. The chair recognizes Dr. Shepherd to present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The administration would like the board to take action on an agreement with American Digital Security in the amount of.
Can I get that count again, please?
We have
2 no, 1 abstention, 3 yes.
3 yes, 2 no, 1 abstention.
Yeah, it's not, that's why I didn't think it was, yeah. Right. So, okay, so can you come up here, please, sir? Thank you. So just in terms of the point of order, thank Thank you for bringing the point of order. Okay, so for the motion regarding the approval of the Lincoln College Preparatory Academy field renovation contract, that motion fails for a lack of, for a lack of majority. All right, thank you. So for the next item, the chair recognizes the American Digital Security Agreement to be presented.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, the administration would like the board to take action on an agreement with American Digital Security for $1.2 million. And at this time, we will have a presentation from our Director of Security, Major Marcus Harris.
Good evening, everyone. So this is basically our integrated security system. It's updating, and this is kind of the last phase of it. As you know, we started this in 2015. When we started in 2015, we kept some of the old Panasonic cameras with the old security system. Those cameras are now not working since the system that we have now, software has been updated. So we have to replace, I think it's 247 cameras, the Panasonic cameras. Hopefully what we will do when we purchase these new cameras, we will try to sell, they'll give a Ken Brown one, we will try to resell these Panasonic cameras and recoup some of our expense with it. The rest of the amount is in the elementary schools. So when in 2015, we had an architect firm, Langford and Associates, to give us a recommendation on cameras and cameras as well as card access systems in elementary schools. The price they gave us at the time, we couldn't afford it at that time. So this capital funding became available. So we duplicated the same process as the architectural firm did. We went back out to each of the elementary schools, and in a joint effort with the principals, building administrators in the schools, we asked them, okay, what do you guys need, you think, to make your students safe? So they put together the information, we put it to paper, we submitted that information to American Digital Systems Security, and that amount was about $937,000 for the elementary schools, about $237,000 for the high schools to replace the Panasonic cameras.
Are there any questions on this proposal? Yes, Board Member Oates.
Just around what we ultimately are putting in schools, is there a state or federal guidelines around school access or school protection or anything like that, or is this just our internal decision on what will best make our schools safe?
Combination of both. There are some recommendations, but we're literally we're leading the charge on that of what to put into these schools. What we're putting into our schools now, some of our neighboring school districts, Kansas City, Kansas, Olathe School District, Leavenworth School District, they're copycatting off of us.
Any other questions? Okay, it would now be in order to have a motion to approve the American Digital Security Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the American Digital Security Agreement. Is there any debate on this motion? Hearing no debate, this will be a roll call vote. Those in favor respond yes. Those opposed will respond no. The secretary will call the roll.
Ms. Manser, Ms. Wolfsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans, Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsfeld,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Yes, there is a majority in favor, and the contract with the American Digital Security Agreement is approved. Now for the, thank you, gentlemen. Oh, yes, sir.
One more thing, this is a minority-owned business, so we just want to make that point of record.
Wonderful. 100% participation. Thank you. It would now be in order to receive a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Okay, it is moved and seconded to approve the items on the consent agenda. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Ms. Manser, Ms. Wolfsey,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Oates,
Yes.
Mr. Fierro,
Yes.
Mr. Evans, Ms. Morris, Dr. Hartsfeld, Ms. Robinson.
Abstain. The consent agenda is approved. This brings us to the conclusion of our agenda for the evening. If there is no objection, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you.